Oh my God, I freaking love that thing. It's like so good. I thought it was really good.
Mm,
You didn't like it?
well, okay, like it's not that I didn't like it,
Uh-huh.
but it's just I think it kind of went longer than it should have.
Really?
Yeah, because okay.
Okay,
So
okay.
here's my reasoning.
Uh-huh.
I am not a fan of repeated tropes.
Okay.
I am not a fan of watching misunderstandings occur like
Oh my God,
on a
I love that
daily
stuff.
daily. Okay, but that's exactly why you have the worst taste of all time. All right,
What do you
you
mean?
the Trash Taste podcast is where you belong. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the fifth episode of the Shouganai Life podcast. It's been a while.
Yeah.
It's been about 3 months since we did our episode with Martin. Um, Things have changed. Obviously, the world is impacted by a global pandemic, COVID. That's been going on with our lives. As you can tell, we've kind of have a new recording space due to the
Yeah.
fact that Marco had to move recently. I mean, tell us about that.
Yeah, as you can see, new recording space, there's not as much stuff to have as a backdrop, which
Mhm.
is fine. I moved to this place just because it's like cheaper. Uh,
Tell us more about your foray into luxury.
well, I rented the other space because
Mhm.
yeah, it was luxury branded
Mhm.
apartment, and I just like the comfortable or like the convenience of everything. Having cover parking, all this shit. But it's whatever. I mean, this space still like very decent.
Mhm.
It's not too far from work, and yeah, I still live on my own, so that's very convenient to still use this space as a recording
Right. Yeah, I mean,
studio.
you're saving a decent amount from the previous place, right?
Yeah, it's about maybe $400 a month that I'm saving now.
I mean,
So yeah, expect better microphones.
oh man. So, I mean, long story short, the area we live in, the DC metro area, isn't exactly known for its cheap housing.
Yeah,
Like
everything is expensive around
yeah,
here.
whether it's Maryland, Virginia, DC itself, like even the crappiest apartment will cost you at least $1,000. At least I've experienced that. I mean, it's I don't think it's anywhere near as bad as say like California,
Oh my God,
which
no,
is
not at all.
yeah, I've always wondered about why that's the case, but that's a topic for another day.
I mean, it's nicer. There's
Right.
like a beach right
The
there,
weather, I guess.
and the weather is really nice. I love California.
Okay, yeah, I mean, that's true. Like the weather itself, summer in the DC metro area is not exactly what I'd call pleasant.
Yeah,
Um, I don't, man, honestly, I wouldn't hesitate to call it the one of the more humid areas in the U.S.
hmm
I think, well, part of it is also because we're right next to the Chesapeake Bay,
yeah,
which is directly connected to the Atlantic Ocean.
yeah,
So all that moisture just comes and just kind of hangs in the air,
yeah,
makes it gross all the time.
yeah.
So,
But I
um,
mean, but I mean, anyway, that's why we took so long
yeah,
to like
exactly.
record another episode
Mhm.
again. Not that we have a lot of subscribers,
Right,
people,
but we'll get there.
it's just for us now
Mhm.
that we wanted to just get back to our regular schedule. But yeah, it has been since April that we
Mhm.
recorded the last episode,
Right.
which is still unpublished due to my
As of
procrastination
as of the
habit.
day of recording, that is still not up,
It's,
but it will
it's
be
not
up
published.
soon.
Yeah, I promise. Now that I've settled down, and yeah, we'll get back to like a
Mhm.
regular schedule.
But I mean, as I mentioned before, it's not necessarily just the move, but also the impact the pandemic has had on our work schedule.
Yeah.
Long story short, like most companies, we had an alternate plan. People who could work from home are now working from home, but for us who work in the biotech industry, it's not exactly easy to bring our work home because it's essentially all lab work, right?
Yeah.
So in order to kind of maintain maintain a acceptable level of output, our management basically decided that we're going to work on we were essentially split into two two teams that work kind of like alternating weeks.
And working 7 days a week.
Pretty much, yeah. So that kind of, and while Marco and I were fortunate enough to be on the same team, so we were on site at the same time. As a result of the longer hours, like arising from this alternate schedule, we found it kind of hard to really find the time to coordinate and to find time to record with him, like thinking about the move and stuff. But all that being said, whether
we're back now,
whether we like it or not, our company is starting to reintegrate us back into the normal schedule we had before. But we'll see.
Yeah, and just wanted to add in, like, I feel fortunate enough to keep my job. Like, I know a lot of people who pretty much got unemployed, and I heard it's a pain in the ass to, like, file for unemployment and all that. So at least, I still have an income and all that. So I feel fortunate for that,
And, despite what we've said, it's not as if we haven't been filling the time with something. Right.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's the other thing or topic. So just overview for today's episode, so that people not listening, rambling. So yeah, sorry for the delay. We're explaining that right now, and we're briefly gonna go over what we've been spending our time in recently. And there's another video about that too that we're gonna publish as well. So we're gonna talk about the new. Not new, sorry. Mobile game, Arknights. We've been playing that. We're going to talk about the anime that we have been catching up with. And lastly, we're going to talk about how to go about reviewing anime and how to present it to our audience. Right. So that's pretty much what today's episode is going to be about.
Well, I mean, so just for background, Arknights is a mobile game that came out at the start of 2020. And
that you're free to register, right?
Well, actually, it's a funny story because I actually chanced upon it. Like I found it by chance, where I was just kind of casually surfing. I think it was YouTube, and then I happened to see an ad for Arknights, and I thought to myself, it's like, oh great, it's another mobile game. I almost didn't give it a second thought. But, a lot of the times for these ads, they do give you the option of kind of clicking on the ad, and it'll directly take you to the app store and give you the app details, right? And so I saw it and I thought, like it's an anime style tower defense game. And that to me was interesting because tower defense games haven't been relevant. I feel,
you're right. No,
I remember in middle school, like hanging out in the computer lab playing what was it called? It was the one with the
monkeys, right?
The monkeys and the balloons.
Balloons, right?
Yeah, and they just like throw darts at the balloons.
Yeah.
But anyways, so I started playing this game and I realized, like I didn't know like tower defense could be so fun.
Kawaii too.
Yeah, very 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 kawaii. So essentially for the most of 2020, I had already been playing it kind of on and off, and then one day Marco here just like walks up to me and goes, "Hey, have you heard of Arknights?" And I'm like, "Have I heard about Arknights, dude? Let me show you something about Arknights."
Yeah.
And I showed him my profile, and I was like, "Yo, I play. Do you play now?"
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, and I think either days before that, I think I had gone through like maybe month by month, like installing a game that looked anime-ish or like strategy-based, and so I would just download it and play it maybe for a day or two, and then maybe not get super into it. One day, I went to the lab where Kevin is, and he just saw the app installed, and he was like, "Yo, it's that Arknights." And I'm like, "Yeah, have you heard of it?" And that's where he was like, "Have I heard of it?" Yeah, and that's when I was like, "Okay, let me give it a chance." Little did I know I was gonna become super obsessed about it, because it's crazy how at some point I was running 2 accounts.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Okay.
But I ended up keeping the second one because I got a better role. Whoever doesn't know that much about Arknights, it's pretty much like a hierarchy, like a tier of characters, and the better the character is, or the more powerful the character is, the rarer it is to get him
Mm-hmm.
or her.
Right. So for anyone who's played a gacha game before, it's
It's a
essentially
gacha game, yeah. Sorry.
yeah, it's essentially a star system.
Yeah.
I feel most games have that kind of system where higher rarity and I guess you could say better operators tend to have more stars. So Arknights is a little unique in that it goes all the way up to 6, but at the same time, like the 1 star isn't really used. But I mean that's kind of but that's besides the point. Long story short, it's as you said, higher the rarity, the harder it is to pull, which kind of leads into the whole re-rolling thing that most people do when one of these games comes out, where you, you'll have entire forum posts or Reddit posts or YouTube videos saying, all right guys, here's the new like flavor of the month gacha game, and here's how you re-roll like quickly so that you can try to get as many high tier characters as you can, you know. So so really that's been taking up the vast majority of our time, even with
the
work.
vast majority.
Oh yeah, no, like there doesn't seem to be a single day where Marco isn't texting me about Arknights. Like
No.
like I'll just be like sitting in like lying in bed and it was like, you're like, yo, like did you pass this level yet?
Yeah.
I'm just like, damn, dude.
Or like, I got this new character today.
Oh, dude, check this out.
Yeah.
And I mean, but I honestly, I highly recommend the game to others. If you're a fan of tower defense.
Yeah.
I think part of what my enjoyment of the game
And the waifus.
the wife, part of what I feel is appealing about the game is that it's pretty easy to recommend to people because number one, it's PvE. You're not facing off against other people.
Yeah.
I find that a lot of popular anime mobile games tend to have a little bit of a PvP element,
Right.
which tends to favor those who spend money on the game.
Yeah.
But also the art, and this is a big selling point to me. The art isn't shall we say, over exaggerated. Like it's quite subdued.
Oh, in terms of like sexuality of,
Well, yeah, that
of
well,
the characters.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not someone who's like, oh, like no, why is this girl showing boobs? It's like no,
Yeah.
but it's like there comes a point where you're just like, oh, great, another one. Right?
Yeah, because sometimes I see the ads for other games and it's just like boobs bouncing around and shit. And like and you're right, like that's what I like about Arknights. It's not, on your face about that kind of stuff. It's
Right.
like very cool art. I think the whole system of the free to play aspect of it, the whole thing is super forgiving. Like you can, I have learned that you can play the whole content without paying a dime. I have just found myself, which we're gonna talk about in a little bit, spending money on this. I just did it out of my willingness. It's not because the game forced me to do it in order to pass a level or whatever.
Right. And to your point, being able to play the game, without having spent a dime, I feel is quite a rarity in the industry. So
that's what I've been hearing. Yeah.
Right, because some of the other games I've played before, Fire Emblem Heroes.
Yeah.
At the time, I thought, oh great, like a mobile Fire Emblem game. Like I love Fire Emblem. Unfortunately, that game kind of went off the rails pretty quickly because, basically, in order to power up characters, you had to essentially roll additional copies of them. Right? So it kind of like the potential system in Arknights. You had a similar thing in Fire Emblem Heroes, except for the part where the stat changes in Fire Emblem Heroes were definitely more significant than in Arknights. Like in Arknights, extra potential is kind of a nice to have. Like, hey,
yeah.
Right. Whereas in Fire Emblem Heroes, like a character at full potential was vastly like significantly more powerful than one without.
Really?
Right. And then And then they kind of introduced a system called the skill share system, where
Mm-hmm.
you can kind of take other characters' passives and put them onto another character. And while that kind of opened up the game for lower tier characters to feel more powerful,
Yeah.
in the same vein, it kind of took characters that were insanely powerful and made them even more so. Right. Right.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So in my mind, that game kind of went off the rails after about a year. I mean, if you were to take the time and kind of like look into the history of it, you'd see like at this point, my personal opinion is that it is definitely a game mostly for whales.
Hmm.
Right. What else have I played? I've also played Dragalia Lost, which is
Yeah.
kind of like an action RPG type game, and that one, I think that one is up there with Arknights in terms of fairness. Not actually, sorry. If you had asked me about a year ago, I would have said that. But now in my mind, it's essentially the way I see it is that you've had some character imbalances and you have some other like because the way Drogalia Lost works is you have a character and you
Mm-hmm.
equip them with a dragon, which provides additional stat boosts. But as the game goes on, um, the dragons are getting like more and more powerful. It's the idea of power creep, right?
Oh.
So so that's been a problem. But part of why Dragalia Lost hasn't been as successful, I'd say, is because their developer, Cygames,
Yeah.
is incredibly generous. Yeah, like
Mm.
you don't feel obligated to spend a dime, like at
Yeah.
all, right?
I mean, but even so,
Mhm.
I was watching a video about the revenue quantities for Arknights
Mhm.
and the banner for Nyan.
Mm-hmm.
I think it made like about $3 million in like the first 12 hours, only for Japan,
Mm-hmm.
like not even the US.
Right.
So it just goes to say, I guess like the players like it that much that
Mm-hmm.
they will just spend the money
Right.
on a damn character, And I mean, I'm not different. I have spent money on the game,
Right.
and I guess we can like
Like
begin to talk about
if
that.
you like yeah, so if you guys watch the video we put out about our roles for Nien,
Yeah.
um, you'll see that I had already pre-charged pre-charged the currency that the Arknights offers,
How much was it?
$100.
$100.
Yeah. Um, and I mean, I guess from a purely financial standpoint, it's never worth it. That being said, I can say with like 100% certainty that Arknights has provided me enough enjoyment that I can justify the money I've spent on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Now my question to you is, what is your threshold for spending money on a gacha game? How far are you willing to go? And like what would prompt you to even start spending in the first place?
What will prompt me to bring it this way? I think first of all, I can kind of see how much work the developers have
Mhm.
put into this game. Like everything is pretty much flawless in that game. I've never have encountered any bugs or anything. First
Mhm.
of all, and then the gameplay. I think the gameplay is super fun. It's super challenging sometimes.
Mhm.
And that's when you kind of begin to be like, okay, I need to get more powerful, or I need to
Mhm.
build this character. But what prompts me to spend money, actual money,
Mhm.
are the collector items. So like the skins or like the
Mhm.
furniture parts.
Mhm.
I think that's pretty much it. And the characters,
Mm.
pretty much. I will
Mhm.
spend on the character.
Mhm.
The only thing that I bought for the video that we're gonna publish, I only bought the headhunting pass, which
Mhm.
gives you 10 rolls,
Mhm.
and I
That's
used
the starter one, right? The one.
the starter one.
Mhm,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was that was $25.
Mhm.
But I have spent more than that in the past just to get more of the currency that the game offers.
Mhm.
Maybe overall I've spent like 70 some dollars.
Mhm.
I think my limit would be about $100 per month.
Mhm.
So I think that's kind of reasonable for
Mhm.
something that I think I just enjoy,
Mhm.
because of the reasons that I mentioned. They do a really good job uh, giving the characters like their own personality, their own voice acting, which is like
Mm.
really good. They're like the art alone is like
Mhm.
beautiful. It's
Right.
like damn, like
Mhm.
for their art alone, I would be like, oh my god, yeah, let me eat to this character, or
Mhm.
like let me get the skin for this character.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: you say you're willing to spend 100 a month on
Hmm.
the game,
Hmm.
but how do
If
you,
necessary.
if necessary, but how do you reconcile that with the fact that like a AAA game
Yeah.
itself costs $60, right? You just know that there's going to be someone who's going to say, well, why are you spending more than a AAA game on this game, and then you're not even guaranteed to get the things you want, right?
Mm.
So to me, I mean, let's just be honest here. At the end of the day, these sort of games involve gambling.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, uh, I mean, to this day, I'm kind of surprised that it hasn't been regulated yet, because
Oh.
when you think about, I mean, there are AAA games that have microtransactions.
Yeah.
FIFA,
Yeah.
um, whatever the NBA, whatever the NBA version is. But yeah, no, you pay $60 for the game,
Mm-hmm.
and then you still have the option to pay for like packs to roll for new like players, and that to me is, I mean, I feel like it shouldn't be an unpopular opinion for me to say that
Yeah.
that's kind of a scummy move, like to me
Ah.
ethically,
Okay.
because I feel like they're skirting by without the designation of being gambling, you know.
Okay.
And I mean, I don't
But
necessarily
then
feel,
this is like okay.
yeah, it's still a little dubious to me, because these are free games, and
Yeah.
obviously, free to play games are not truly free. They're not. The developers are not. They need money somehow to even
Yeah.
start developing,
Yeah.
right? And they have to make that back. They have to make their investment back. And obviously, games like these wouldn't be made if they weren't profitable to begin with,
Correct. Yeah.
right? So in a way, I guess I don't feel quite as
Like ripped off kind of thing.
ripped off, nor do I feel guilty either, because unlike AAA games with microtransactions, free to play games tend to have are being updated on a consistent basis, right?
Yeah.
So it's the whole idea of games as a live service.
Yeah. I mean, for me, when you say triple A,
Hmm.
I think console,
Yeah, yeah.
and like I think first of all, for me, I didn't think I was gonna get into mobile gaming.
Hmm.
I don't know if you could call me a mobile gamer now, but like I do play this a lot now.
Hmm.
Uh, console gaming, on the
Hmm.
other hand, I don't play a lot.
Hmm.
Uh, I am not as invested, even historically,
Hmm.
even though like I do have a lot of games
Hmm.
that I bought. But like I I think when you say, oh, a AAA game is like $60,
Hmm.
I think for because console gaming is like secondary to me.
Hmm.
Uh, I only buy them used, or I
Hmm.
only will put the investment if it's like a limited edition game,
Right, right.
or like a limited edition game.
Hmm. I guess like the way people kind of see it is that it's like, why would you not just pay for a fully fledged game from the
Yeah,
outset, rather than a game that's still like in development, and spending the money on those games doesn't guarantee you the content. But then the
yeah,
way but then like but then the way I see it is, like I said before, the game's being constantly updated with new content. So for
yeah,
example, with Arknights, there's always various events, there's new chapters to the story, which is decent. Like I,
yeah.
I won't say it's like a masterpiece or anything, but
Mm-hmm.
it is compelling enough for
It's
for
compelling enough. Yeah.
for those who care enough. So
I mean, I will say this. So,
mm,
what I like about Arknights is that it does feel that you are kind of in the journey together with the
mhm,
people who have created it.
mhm,
As in, like, the events, the things that you collect from the events, like, you look back at it, it's like, oh, cool, that was
mhm,
such a cool event. Or, like,
mhm,
oh, I remember this skin that I got from that other challenge.
mhm,
And then you kind of think ahead as well. Like, I'm thinking continuous in contract, or like,
mm,
I'm just thinking on the other side of the wall, like people are thinking of the stages or like
mhm,
or the challenges for the players.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me is like enough reason to keep supporting them
Mm-hmm.
in like in the making of the game. So I
Mm-hmm.
feel like we're going together in this.
Mm-hmm.
Like we are as the supporters, the consumers, and then
Mm-hmm.
them as the creators.
Right.
It's sort of like a YouTube channel that I
Mm-hmm.
really like, and I'm
Right.
like, wow, I've seen this guy grow over the years, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like, let me be a, what do you call it, a sponsor,
Mm-hmm.
for him because he's a cool person. And just like
Mm-hmm.
I just feel part of what
Mm-hmm.
he's become
Mm-hmm.
thus far, you know.
Kind of
That's
like
kind of see it.
essentially supporting someone, say like Patreon,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
right? That kind of thing. Mm.
Yeah, that's kind of what I get a feeling of
Mm-hmm.
when I think about this game.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm. I, I definitely see what you're saying. I think a lot of
Yeah,
it
what's
is,
your take? Then yeah.
I think for me the biggest point I enjoy about the game is it definitely respects my time.
Okay.
Yeah. So one of my biggest problems with mobile games over the years has been it feels as if I'm not fully invested in it, if I'm not playing it like at least a few hours a day,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna fall behind everyone else. Now, to a certain degree, to a certain degree, I don't really care.
Yeah.
You know, like my aim is not to like reach the top of the leaderboards or anything like that.
Right.
But you know, given what we mentioned about the work schedule that we're currently in,
Yeah.
like there's only so much time for us to, you know, do other things in the day, like whether it's watch anime, play other video games, hang out with, well, not really hang out with our friends. Not in these
That's not
times.
allowed.
Yeah, that's prohibited.
Yeah.
Ignoring this.
Yeah.
So the thing with Arknights is that I only need to really invest at maybe half an hour a day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I'm continually making progress.
Yeah.
Whatever progress that is, whether that's upgrading my operators or farming materials, like things like that. You know, my time is respected.
Yeah.
You know, I don't feel like I'm falling behind anyone in doing so, because as we mentioned before, it's a PvE game.
Yeah.
There's no competition.
Yeah.
Like you kind of set your own goals in that regard. You know,
Yeah.
and I think that's why some people really enjoy, say, JRPGs. You know,
Mm-hmm.
where it's mostly just you setting your own goals and objectives into the game.
Yeah.
You know, like
And-
don't give a shit what other people think.
No, yeah, and at the end of the day, we have to think, have to remember,
Mhm.
is a game. We
Right.
play a game because it's fun. It's
Right.
not because like we have to stress about it and like spend money and all this shit.
Excuse you, but I like to play. I like to play games to dominate other
Yeah.
people. You know, I like to wreck the. If somebody is enjoying themselves while they're enjoying myself, that can't be allowed. I have to ruin their day.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm kidding, but that's kind of the vibe I get whenever I play things like League, you know, or first person shooters.
I think League is kind of different.
Yeah.
Oh my god, no, yeah, yeah. Do you ever play League?
A little bit.
Okay.
But I heard plenty about the toxicity.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I still play League casually now because of that reason. It's like, sometimes I'm trying my best. I'm like, damn, I really need to get back to lane, all this shit, like doing actually like a decent job. And then it's like people trash talking. Like when it gets to a point where like we're losing, clearly we're losing, it's like bot lane difference or like fucking bot lane sucks. And it's just like, dude, like, come on, it's a team game. Like,
Right.
I don't know. I began hating that game because of that, because of the community.
Right.
And like, that's why I don't play it as much now.
It's just funny because you just know that someone will say like, well, take your complaints and add it to the absolute massive mountain.
Yeah.
I mean, because this has been a regular thing, and yet this can be a topic for another day, but yet I wonder, why do people keep playing it? Right.
That's a good question.
Now,
I mean, it is fun. I think so. Sorry,
No, go ahead.
before you keep going, I think it is for that one game that is actually really cool. Maybe it will happen 1 in 20 games that you play, because I remember games or like the matches that have been like super cool.
Right.
They've gone like over an hour and super challenging, and it's like you can actually see the skills of everyone, how you work together. like the synergy among the players, and like you can see that on both sides, and it's like that's the actual real fun part of it.
Right.
But again, that happens 1 in 20 games,
Right.
maybe.
Right. And I think that's just kind of the inevitability of competitive games. You know, um, you know, when in competitive games, obviously like one team or person has to win at the end of the day. So it's like, and I feel for the most part, you know, I think what I've come to realize over the years is that most people are sore losers, whether they want to admit it or not.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, no one likes to lose, but it's like, but when you're on the internet, that kind of just goes unchecked, and it's just like fuck this shit. Like I don't.
Yeah.
It's just like this is bullshit. I would have totally won if not. Like you can come up with so many different excuses.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's not the case with Arknights. If you can't beat a level, you can't spend
Because
money.
you're a small brain.
Right. Yeah. If you're an absolute smooth brain like me, like if you were to take my brain out right now and just put it on the table, smooth as a baby's bottom. Okay. But that's the thing with Arknights. You can't spend more money to beat the game.
Well.
Well, you can.
Yeah.
But the level of money you would have to spend to reach that level is steep.
Yeah.
Incredibly steep. But you know, if you just fire two brain cells together for just a few seconds, like you can definitely beat the entire game with low level operators.
Yeah.
Or lower tier operators.
And I think that's the challenge and the fun of it. It's like it's possible.
Right.
Like when you're trying to brute force the damn game, it's like, and then you find the solution. It's like, oh wow, like
Right. Yeah, like, and that's part of it as well. Like, not only can you beat the game with lower tier operators, but you can do like some sort of mix and match of all the lower tier, high tier characters.
Oh, yeah.
And create your own strategy.
Yeah.
Like all the guides you see on YouTube, yeah, you can follow them, but it is also entirely possible for someone to come up with their own unique strategy.
Yeah, and that's the one more point about that game is like you can come up with 1,000 strategies,
Right.
and you will be able to pass the level.
And I know it sounds like we're trying to like shill for Arknights, but that's
I'm just obsessed about
right,
it.
like
Sorry.
exactly. But let's be honest here. Like part of the reason why we're discussing it so much is just simply because, well, like we legitimately enjoy it, and it's gotten to the point where, some of our mutual friends, like who you wouldn't think would play these type of games, have started picking it up.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that speaks to its staying power, or its its ability to grab people's attention.
Yeah.
You know,
I agree.
so I mean, yeah, we've been playing Arknights, but you know, like, let me ask you this: have you been able to catch up on any anime since this whole pandemic started?
So, for the longest time, I wasn't like compelled to watch anime. I have no idea why. But the one that I did pick up and that I finished was the second season of Kaguya-sama, which I want to talk about a little bit. I was surprised by how the story writers developed certain characters. Certain characters being Ishigami. Ishigami, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And Ito. What's the other girl's name? The new girl.
Biko?
No, the one that ended up being the secretary or the treasurer.
The treasurer?
The little girl, brown hair.
That's Miko.
Miko?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Miko. Yeah. And how they developed the characters and how they delivered that story, and how I found myself surprised, like being empathized for the character. So that was very enjoyable to watch.
And it's been interesting for me because I remember when the first chapter of the manga came out, and I read through it, and I'm like, oh, this is a very interesting concept. It's because it's obviously most people like it because it's very different from the typical rom-com anime. But I would never have imagined that it'd end up where it is now. Where it is quite literally one of the most popular mangas and animes of like all time now. I'd say. I think most people know about it by now. Like, I think it's one of the more mainstream rom-coms now. But even though it's, more mainstream, the quality itself has not gone down.
Yeah.
And that speaks to the author. I don't remember his name off the top of my head right now, but
Me neither.
like on the internet, like everyone calls him a god because
Really?
the thing is, and I'm glad the anime did this as well, but the author has a tendency to kind of twirl together like story threads that you didn't even think were there to begin with, right? So he kind of laid the foundation for Ishigami's story throughout like like left bits and pieces throughout chapters and episodes, but you didn't even give it a second thought.
Yeah.
But then
yeah, that's true.
when they all come together at the climax, you realize, oh my god, this
Yeah.
guy is an absolute genius. Like
Yeah.
holy, just like I can't believe you've done this. Like so.
Yeah.
I mean, and at this point, I feel like I have no doubt that it's gonna get more seasons, and because I think it's on like there's nearly 200 chapters of the manga, and I highly recommend it.
Is it still being published?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Like there's still more. Like people who've only watched the anime, like if they want to continue on, like they're in for a treat. They really are.
Okay.
Like the quality just does not go down.
Okay. That's the only thing I haven't either keeping up with manga. So I know that I was really keeping up with Attack on Titan.
Mm-hmm.
The last one that I think the last one that I read was the one before the one that he just published.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not I'm not that behind.
Mm-hmm.
But I do remember I would literally check every day, like when or like around the day that he would publish every month, and check if it was updated.
Right.
But now I still haven't read the latest chapter.
Right.
Have you been keeping up with Attack on Titan?
So I haven't really kept up with Attack on Titan. I'll probably binge it once I get to the end.
That's what I also want to do.
Yeah.
I'm kind of also waiting.
Yeah, because a lot of the manga I read these days are like more like fluffy romance mangas. I don't know what that says about me, but I find myself reading more kind of slice of life, romantic-ish comedy like mangas these days.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know if it's because I'm burnt out on like the typical shonen like manga where it's like action like all day every day.
Yeah.
Because I mean, obviously I grew up on Dragon Ball, Naruto, Bleach. Maybe not so much One Piece. Like I don't know if I'll ever like
No.
One Piece could be the best anime of all time, like undeniable. And I would still never watch it or read it.
Yeah, such a freaking time commitment.
It's such a daunting mountain. Like
Yeah.
you just look, like you can physically feel the presence of it when you see
Yeah.
how many chapters or episodes it has. Like
Yeah.
when I'm pretty sure it's approaching 1,000 on both ends.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, no, it's crazy.
yeah, and if you assume that every episode is, the typical 24 minutes, right?
Yeah.
It's like 24 times 1,000, 24,000 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know people will say something along the lines of, oh, you can probably just skip some of the
The fillers, yeah.
some of the filler or some of the arcs, but in my mind, if you want to call yourself the greatest anime or manga of all time,
Yeah.
you have to read it or watch it front to back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah. But to your point of you saying if you were burnt out with the shonen and manga, I mean, the last manga that I remember reading that was like rom-com was Nisekoi. And oh my god, I freaking love that thing. It's like so good. I thought it was really good. You didn't like it?
Well, okay, like it's not that I didn't like it, but it's just I think it kind of went longer than it should have.
Really?
Yeah, because okay.
Okay.
So here's my reasoning.
Uh-huh.
I am not a fan of repeated tropes.
Okay.
I am not a fan of watching misunderstandings misunderstandings occur like
Oh my god,
on a
I love that
daily
stuff.
daily. Okay, but that's exactly why you have the worst taste of all time. All right,
What do you
you
mean?
the Trash Taste podcast is where you belong.
Yeah.
But but like I was saying, misunderstandings that occur on like a per chapter or per episode basis just annoy me simply because um like so much of this
See,
stuff
you
could have
cannot
been
even explain yourself.
okay, so much of these misunderstandings
Uh-huh.
would never happen if they just communicated. But no,
Okay, but
they just decide like, oh, I'm just gonna assume that this happened and just not speak anything about it.
yeah, but that's my point. Like my thing with manga or this I guess fictional shit is like I turn off my brain and I go like, yeah, I believe your bullshit excuse because I'm not trying to think about it because that's the whole point. This shit would not happen at all in real life.
Mm.
And if you apply logic to it, obviously it's gonna be like, oh, nothing in anime will ever happen
Right,
or shouldn't happen.
but that's the thing. Like even when Nisekoi came out,
Mm-hmm.
that was a repeated trope in like so much manga and anime that came before it.
Okay, I'll give you that.
Okay,
I'll give you
okay.
that. I liked it because I guess for me it was the first experience with those tropes and
So you never
and
read,
I like the harem fucking.
you
I have no
never-
shame admitting it. So yeah,
so you never read Love Hina.
Love Hina. I've heard of it, but I never read it.
Okay, because that
Yeah.
was the first. That was the first. I think that's the first manga that most people around our age have read that has like all those tropes. So for
Okay.
me, like, oh my god, like just thinking about it now, I can't believe I read that whole thing like front to back. But long story short, like the main girl is just constantly just like in denial of like her feelings for the main guy character, and it's always just like it's just like no, I don't like you, like get away from me. I'm gonna do all these like stupid things, get myself into these dumb situations, and then like no, like my point
Yeah.
my point here being like to me it had been done before, so to me Nisekoi was just kind of like a more modern reiteration of that.
Okay.
So I mean
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
I
fair.
mean, don't get me wrong. The art, absolute god tier.
Yeah, no. Oh my god, no. When I will flip the page
Yeah.
on some of
Yeah.
the chapters, sorry, I will be like, damn, like that
Right.
was like super good.
But that being said, art is not the only part of the manga, and which is why, in my opinion, I gave it a kind of like a 6 or 7 out of 10.
6 or 7 out of 10.
Yeah, and I mean, okay, and then I have to specify. I do not like to use the like 1 to 10 scale like most people have started using it, which is like the giving it kind of a letter grade, kind of,
Oh.
like where it's like 9 or 10 is like an A, 8 is a B, 7 is a C, that kind of thing, and then like don't even make use of 1 through 5.
Oh yeah, no.
Right?
No, 1 to 10 I think is fair.
Right, but like people have to actually use the bottom half of the scale for it to mean something, because otherwise you might as well just use like a like or not, right?
Yeah. Okay, and I guess that brings us to like the later part of the podcast, which is like how do you go around reviewing either manga or anime in like an objective form?
And can you?
I'm gonna straight up say that's not possible. I think there's a lot of genres that will cater to different tastes, and obviously everyone has different personalities, different tastes, different traits. It's like there's no way in hell that you're gonna have, that you're ever going to be able to objectively review an anime.
Right. I mean, at the end of the day, I agree with you. Simply because when you think about it, like you said, everyone has their own tastes. Everyone has their own preferences, right?
Yeah.
And if someone doesn't like one particular genre, and you're just not going to be able to convince them to like actually enjoy it, well, even if you show them like a classic in the genre,
Yeah.
it's like they just may not like it. So, for example, like I mean, let's talk about something that I think the vast majority of people would like. Say Full Metal Alchemist,
Yeah,
right?
I was about to say that like there are definitely universal animes that a bunch of people will
Hmm.
like.
I would say I would wager to say 95%.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think I think that's appropriate
yeah.
because 5% of a population is still a decent sized amount of people,
Or
right?
they just have trash
Or they
taste.
have trash taste. Like,
Yeah.
um, but you know, if someone's not a fan of like kind of like battle shonen manga, then like ever, like they're just never gonna enjoy it. Well, then of course they're not gonna enjoy like Full Metal Alchemist,
Yeah.
right? Um, and so and so that's the thing. Like I suppose there are objective elements to it.
Yeah.
So for example, we mentioned art.
Yeah.
Um, like you can't tell me that the Fate series doesn't have the top tier art and animation.
Yeah.
Like you really can't. That being said,
Hmm.
I just know that if I were to go to Twitter or some sort of social media website,
Yeah.
there will always be someone willing to argue, like argue against you.
Oh, 100%.
Social
Yeah.
media was a mistake. Like, I
Yeah.
genuinely believe that,
Okay. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But like you were saying, like uh, I truly wonder if we can ever come to like a consensus anime.
Mm. Well, to add to the whole universality or how universal the like Full Metal Alchemist is, for
Mhm.
example.
Yeah.
In my personal opinion, I don't think I will say Full Metal Alchemist is in my top 10
Mm-hmm.
because it's not. Unfortunately, sorry, but like,
Trash taste.
but and so that's what I mean. Is
Mhm.
like there's way too many variables to
Mm-hmm.
make it consistent consensus like,
Mhm.
that everyone will agree. Oh yeah, that's my top
Mm-hmm.
10 anime. Like
Now, I know at one point you tried to create a framework upon
mhm.
which we could review anime in as objective a way as possible.
Yeah,
And I know you based it off of
my anime list.
that and also a quite reputable car reviewer,
Oh yeah.
Doug DeMuro.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that for a sec.
Well, the system I had sort of come up with was reviewing the anime scoring the anime in 5 categories. So
Mhm.
first was the animation,
Mm-hmm.
and this was like how fluid the animation was,
Mm-hmm.
how detailed everything was,
Mhm.
how the colors blended and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then after animation was the story,
Mm-hmm.
how compelling the story was, all this stuff. And then I think it was characters.
Mhm.
Like if the characters were like if there were way too many characters to keep track of, or if there were characters that were like, why did he appear, or like why did she appear, and how much character development there was. And then there was the soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
I think it included voice acting as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then lastly, I don't remember what the last point was, but anyway, so I would separately score each category and then composite
Mm-hmm.
that, and then that will give it a score,
Mhm.
which is pretty much what Doug DeMuro does with
Mhm.
cars,
Yeah.
which is way easier to review because it's a product, it's
Right.
like a purchasable product.
Mhm.
Whereas anime, it is like a expression of art from
Mhm.
someone
Mm-hmm.
who has created it.
Right.
So, but yeah, I didn't keep going with it. But
Yeah, I think because like he mentioned, I think we actually discussed this previously, but I think we both came to the realization that at the end of the day, it's just straight up impossible. You know,
Yeah.
for example, we were watching the Trash Taste podcast, and I forgot who said it. Was it the anime man? Joey. He gave School Days a 10 out of 10.
I've never watched that.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
So when,
Didn't he say he was like the best anime of all time or something?
well, he considers it one of his best, right? And his other like hosts, Sea Dog and Giguk, you know, obviously like some of the biggest anime tubers out there.
Yeah.
They were both kind of giving him a little shit for it, And I mean, I agree with them. I'm just like, how can you possibly justify giving School Days a 10 out of 10? But perhaps that's kind of the fun of it, you
Yeah.
know. Everyone has kind of a has their can kind of give it their own score, can derive their own enjoyment from it, and then so we spend time discussing with each other uh, how bad your taste is, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so I mean, long story short, School Days is just um, whenever people think of like yandere like anime,
Uh-huh.
yeah, like that's like one of the originals.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like
Okay.
that kind of spoils the story a little bit, but that's
I mean, how
that's part
old
of it.
is it?
It's quite old. I'd
Yeah,
say
yeah,
early,
for
yeah,
sure.
it's quite like it's like early 2000s or something, maybe even older than that.
Yeah, so
I'll have to look it up.
it's whatever is spoiling
Right.
it. Yeah, yeah.
But cannot say I cannot say that like I'm dumbfounded, honestly,
Yeah.
at someone giving it a 10 out of 10. Like I never, but maybe
Huh.
it's because I'm not and I think this goes into um, other people's thought process,
Yeah.
like what part of anime like compels you to watch it, you know?
I think universally and historically,
Hmm.
I think this for any type of medium
Hmm.
is the story.
Right.
How much you get empathized by the character, how much you see them grow,
Hmm.
and what the stakes are. I
Hmm.
think that's why Full Metal Alchemist is such a universal anime because like the stakes are pretty high.
Hmm.
Even at the beginning, everything is like laid out.
Hmm.
Hey, these two guys are brothers, family. That's like a universal theme. It's
Hmm.
like family is the most important thing in your life, in
Right.
everyone's life. In how they go out of their way to find out, find the solution to the problem,
Hmm.
which people who have not watched it, and
And it
I'm
ends
not
up
gonna
in like
spoil it.
some like underground conspiracy, like who's
Yeah,
gonna uncover all of that.
yeah,
I mean, um, I do think at the same time you also kind of have to think about the time period it came out in,
yeah.
right? So I just think it's unfair sometimes to compare, and this is kind of what annoys me. Is like sometimes you'll read like a review from like My
Mm-hmm.
Anime List or something,
Mm-hmm.
and then they'll kind of say, well, this anime wasn't quite as good as this other anime from 20 years ago,
Yeah,
and then you're just like, well,
it's not. Yeah,
like yeah, I guess like the story and the story structures are kind of similar, but I just don't see the point in you comparing the two, like um and we
oh,
had
that was sorry. That's one other point that I wanted to bring up with
mm,
the reviewing system was
mm,
like I never really try to compare it to anything
mm,
else because, in my opinion, if you were going to talk about a certain anime, it
mm,
should be looked at only that anime and not be like, oh, this is very similar to this.
mm, unless it's a sequel, right?
Unless it's a sequel,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I can see like we can mention a very similar
Hmm.
anime, but I think if you're reviewing anything, you should only look at that anime for what it is and
Hmm.
not for what it could be or how similar it is to something
Right.
else.
So kind of like on its own.
Yeah.
Like, you put it in its own box.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm. And I mean, and this goes into another anime I watched. I've watched during the pandemic, Kagushi Goto,
Oh yeah,
made by the same author as another series called Sayonara Zetsubo Sensei, another older series. Um, Now, because they're made by the same author, stylistically they're pretty much identical, right?
yeah.
Now, my problem is, sometimes I'm going through some of the reviews in My Anime
Yeah.
List, and some of the reviews just keep mentioning, well, it's good, but it's not Sayonara Zetsubo Sensei. It's like, okay, but it's not supposed to.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to be that. Like, it is its own story, uses some of the same like humor, but at the end of the day, like we shouldn't be like we shouldn't be comparing it and saying it's like, well, it's not good because it's not this,
Yeah.
right? And that just kind of muddies the waters even more with regards to whether you can truly objectively review anime, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean, I don't get me wrong. I think it's good that we can review anime
Yeah.
because it's always good to kind of have, and if you have enough reviews, I think you can. So, for example, like My Anime List, I think that's the main purpose of it, is that once you get enough reviews,
Yeah.
you can kind of kind of get a consensus. You can get enough data points to determine whether this was actually a good anime or not, right?
Yeah.
That being said, fully admit there's definitely been some anime that's like rated extremely low that I've enjoyed.
Okay.
So it's like, you know.
I kind of think of an example like that
Mm-hmm.
I've. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you just should play what you want.
Play what you want.
You should play
Watch what you
enjoy.
want. You know.
Watch it for your own enjoyment.
Right.
Fuck everyone and their fucking opinions.
Yeah, fuck your opinion. Your opinions mean nothing. Therefore,
Yeah.
our opinions mean nothing. So
Yeah. Anyway.
But I mean, so for example, we do watch the Trash Taste podcast, right? And I think that's kind of what's lacking in society. We live in, I don't want to get into like some Joker, we live in a society bullshit, but I think that's kind of lacking these days, which is like proper discussion and discourse, where it's like, it's okay for everyone to have an opinion,
Yeah.
right? But we need to also be able to kind of civilly discuss our opinions without being like,
Oh yeah.
your opinion's trash,
Yeah,
like
fuck
from
you,
the get for no
Yeah.
actual reason, you know.
Yeah.
That being said, I mean, but at the same time, there's like, for example, no one will ever convince me that Boku no Pico is a classic or anything. Like, come on. Like,
Wait, what do you mean? It's a classic, man. What the fuck is wrong with you?
I'm just kidding. I have a shrine dedicated in my closet to it. You know, it's
Yeah.
the only anime I've ever rated 11 out of 10. Okay, but you know, it's just like shit like that. I'm just like, listen, it's.
No, yeah, that's straight up fucked up.
I'm like, that's fucked up.
I don't know. I haven't watched it. I just know what it is.
It's just like people, like the anime community likes to meme about it and stuff.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. They meme about it a lot. Yeah.
It's funny in concept, but when you really think about it, it's like, hey,
No.
yeah, it's like, oh,
Like, who
man.
came up with this shit?
Yeah. So I mean,
Yeah. Anyway,
hmm,
well, I think that's like a good discussion for today.
yeah.
Anyone tuning in for today, thanks for listening. If you have any comments, suggestions, leave them in the comments. Leave a like if you want. Subscribe if you want.
You're
I
not
don't want to force
enthusiastic.
you.
You're not enthusiastic enough. Okay, you gotta tell them to smash that like button, like hit that notification bell, like all right, and make sure you do like, subscribe, leave a comment, so you
Share.
so you can enter the giveaway for this used Nendoroid, you know, so things like that. So, but anyways,
Yeah.
once again, thank you for listening, and tune in next time.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.